Hey everyone, welcome back to another live streaming, another Friday live streaming music theory for guitarists. This is the episode 11, okay? And today we are going to talk about how to find the key of your favorite songs when you play, your songs, your chord progressions in major and minor keys. Okay, so we'll be continuing what we introduced last week. I'm just checking. That's good. Seems to be seems to be working fine, because sometimes there are some issues with the audio and the video. Anyway, guys, when you join this live streaming, feel free to say hi and maybe let me know if you can hear me all right, if you can see me all right, and if there is a good connection in general, if there is a good sync between the audio and the video. Okay. And I'm gonna start now doing a little bit of a recap of what we introduced in the episode 10. Okay, the episode 10 was live last Friday, and we talked about how to find the key of a song in a major key generally, and in general, what are the chords that you find when you harmonize the major scale. Okay, we did that with triads and we did that with tetrads, which are basically the seventh chords. So this is what we're going to review today, and also we are going to add a little bit of something about the minor keys. Okay, so in general, let's start this recap about the major keys. We went through the harmonization of the scale. So the scale that we're referring to is the major scale. So when I say the major scale, what I mean is basically this. So that scale made by 7 notes that we introduced in the very first few episodes of this series. If you guys haven't watched the first few episodes and you feel like you want to catch up with the basics of this theory course, theory series, live streaming series, make sure to check out the very first few episodes where I talk about scales, like for example this major scale in the key of C. This is basically C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, the 7 notes of the music alphabet played in the C major scale. And we go over the formula, the intervals, the distance basically between the notes in the major scale. So that whole step, half step, and then again whole step, half step. With this formula, we saw many times that you can move this scale around the fretboard and basically play it in any other key. So if you move your root note C, anywhere else really on the A string, you can play. This, for example, is the E flat major scale. And for instance, you could do that even without knowing the 7 notes that you actually find in the E flat major scale. Obviously, I highly encourage you to know these notes, but in case you don't, still, you can do it. You can do it just using the pattern, the shape that we went through. Make sure that you know the formula, so the intervals that we mentioned. Make sure that you know the degrees. Okay, in a major scale, we've got the root, then the major second and major third. Then we've got the perfect fifth and the perfect fourth and the perfect fifth. Then again, the major sixth and the major seventh, so that you know what intervals we're talking about. Okay, that is quite important, and it will give you like a roadmap of the fretboard and also something that you can rely on when you want to do something more advanced from a theory point of view. But then we also went through, in other episodes, we went through how to know the notes that you have in a key, the notes that you have in a major scale, without even having to go through this formula that we just talked about. And the method to do that is basically through the accidentals in the key. And what I mean by that is basically going over the sequence of sharps and sequence of flats, knowing already, maybe using the circle of fifths to help you, knowing already what kind of sharps or flats, how many basically, and which ones they are, you find in any key, major and minor. If this is something that interests you, make sure to check out, again, the previous episodes. At the bottom of each video of this series, this live streaming series, you find timestamps. The timestamps basically, guys, are sort of like chapters that you find in the video, making sure that when you check the description, you know where you will find in the video the topic that you are interested. So if you don't feel like following the whole video or watching the whole replay of the video, you can just go to the topics that you're more interested in. Okay, and I'd added them to all of the previous live streaming, so you can do that from the episode 1 until today's episode. At the end of this live streaming, I will do the same. For now, if you're watching it live, you can check out what topics we'll be going through tonight in the description. And if instead you're watching the replay, I'm 100% sure you will find already the timestamps and you can go to the topic that you're more interested in. Okay. So once we got the major scale and we harmonize it, we will review the harmonization in triads and in tetrads in a minute. You will be able to figure out what key you're playing in when you play your chord progressions, when you play your songs, and also come up with your own chord progressions using these rules. And the way you do it is basically analyzing each chord. So using something that we called the harmonic analysis. The harmonic analysis basically says that you go over the chords that you are playing, trying to understand how many possible keys contain that single chord until you find only one key which contains all of the chords that you are analyzing. Okay, that is the concept that you use to find the key of a song. Okay, this applies basically to the major and to the minor keys, but what we went through last week was the major keys. And just to recap that, if we are talking about triads and you find a major triad, then a major triad can be on the first, on the fourth, and on the fifth degree of a major scale. So if we are in the key of C, the three triads that you find in this key will be C major, first degree, F major, fourth degree, G major, fifth degree. If we talk about minor chords, the three minor chords, you will find them on the second, on the third, and on the sixth degree. So that means that still in the key of C major, the three minor chords that you find will be D minor, which is obviously the second degree, then E minor, which is the third degree, and then A minor, which is the sixth degree. You don't find any augmented triads in a major key, but you do find one diminished triad, okay, which is going to be the B diminished triad. And in order to play that B diminished, in order to figure out what kind of degree that B diminished triad would be, that is going to be the seventh degree. So the seventh degree of a major key is always going to be a diminished triad. Okay. Also, guys, I want to remind you, no matter whether you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay, make sure that you go in the YouTube settings and you set this video at 1080p, which is the full HD resolution. You will be able to hear everything better, to see everything better, even in terms of how sharp the image is, since we're talking about a live streaming. That will help you figuring out even better all the things that I'm playing on the fretboard. Obviously, I'll try to be as close as I can to the webcam, but it's one of those things that if you set the 1080p, it will usually impact your resolution and in general the quality of your of the video that you're watching. Okay, so this is an option which is available on this series, for this live streaming series, but most of the times, especially I would say if you watch on a mobile, the default resolution that YouTube offers will be more like 480p, something like that. So just keep in mind that you can do that with all of my videos, that you can go to 1080p and you will get a better quality, okay, if you're interested in all of the things that I play basically on the fretboard. Okay, so yeah, now that we got that out of the way, that we recapped how to find the key of a major song in general. You can do the same even with the sevenths. We'll be back to that in a minute. If you got a major chord, that would be either on the first or the fourth degree. If you have a -7 chord, that would be on the second, on the third, and the sixth degree, like the minor triads. And then on the seventh degree, instead of having just a diminished triad, you do have a -7 flat 5 chord, which is this. Okay, and all you do about it really is just considering it's the seventh degree of a major key. Okay, we'll see today how this diminished chord, that half diminished chord, sorry, -7 flat 5, that most people don't really look into at first when they learn how to figure out the keys of the songs. It's actually extremely important when the key of the song, the key of the chord progression that you are playing is a minor key. In a minor key, the half diminished chord really has an important role. So we'll be going over that as well. Okay, so let's recap now the harmonized major scale. Okay, so if we take the C major as an example, but again, feel free to do it in any other key and actually do that as your own exercise, moving this to other keys, you will find this order of 7 chords. Just to refresh this, when you harmonize a scale, that means that you're taking the 7 notes of a scale and you're generating 7 chords. So 7 chords from 7 notes. So if I go through the C, D, E, F, G, A, B, which are the 7 notes of the C major scale, you will now get the 7 chords. And these 7 chords are major on the 1st degree, so for example C major in the key of C major, D minor, so 2nd degree minor, 3rd degree minor as well, so E minor, 4th degree major, so F major, 5th degree major as well, so G major, 6th degree minor, so A minor, and 7th degree diminished, so B diminished. Okay, that's how the harmonization goes with the triads. So if you want to apply this to any other key, all you do really, you figure out first what notes you have in the scale that you're going to harmonize, but the series of chords, the series of triads in this instance that you will find will be exactly the same. Okay. If we do that, extending the harmonization, which is this process of going by thirds using the notes of the scale to figure out the chords that you generate on each degree, if we extend that, instead of just doing 1, 3, 5, which is your root, 3rd, and 5th, you extend that by another 3rd interval, and you will get 1, 3, 5, 7. This is how you get all of your 7th chords. Okay. Obviously, the first 3 notes of these 7 chords will be the 3 notes of the triads that we just saw. But if we extend that, we will find a major 7 chord, on the 1st degree, C major 7, if we are in the key of C. Then a minus 7 chord on the 2nd degree, so D minus 7, if we are in the key of C major again. Then E minus 7 on the 3rd degree, and again, if we are in the key of C. Then if we continue, the 4th degree will be a major 7 again, so F major 7 in the key of C. Then the 5th degree, the dominant chord, we'll be talking a lot about this 5th degree, is the dominant 7 chord, so G7 if you are in the key of C major. The 6th degree again is a minor chord, minor 7 chord, so A minus 7 in the key of C major. And the last one, which used to be the B diminished triad, now becomes a B half diminished chord, so a B minus 7 flat 5, basically like this. Okay, so these are all of the chords that you find in any key when you harmonize it. Okay, so if you move to the key of G major, okay, for example, you figure out first what notes you have in the key of G major. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, okay? Then you give to all of these notes the same type of chord that we figured out already in the key of C major. If you are unsure about the method, just go back to the previous episode, which is the episode 10. Okay, so for example, in the key of G major, if I harmonize it in tetrads, so using 7th chords, that would be G major 7th on the 1st degree, A minus 7 on the 2nd degree, then B minus 7 on the 3rd, C major 7 on the 4th, then D7 on the 5th, then E minus 7 on the 6th, and then F sharp half diminished on the 7th degree. Okay. If you guys feel like you want to also review why we get these 7 chords and how these 7 chords actually are in terms of notes, degrees, and formulas, and also how you can play them on guitar, then make sure to check out the episodes 8 and 9 of this live streaming series, because there is where I really went through all of these 7 chords. Okay, in the previous episodes, the first 5, 6, 7 episodes probably, we went over the triads, the intervals, the scales, a little bit of theory of the fretboard as well, to understand how you figure out the names of the notes that you are playing. But then, in the episodes 8 and 9, we really introduced a lot about the 7th chords. And then in the episode 10, which was last week, we really talked about this process of harmonizing a major scale. Okay, so now it's the time, before we get into the minor word, okay, and we figure out what is going on in the minor word, how you can tell what's the name of the key that you're playing when the song that you're playing or the chord progression that you're playing is minor, as well as coming up with your own chord progressions in a minor key. Okay, before we do that, it's time to take another example, do a few examples to really understand how you can figure out this key that you're playing. Okay, so the best way is to get a different example from last week. So I will not say now what is the name of the key that we are going to play. Okay, I will only play a bunch of chords. Okay, these chords could be triads as well as seventh chords, because that's what you find in real life. Okay, when you go over songs, when you learn songs, or in general when you go over chord progressions. Okay, if you are slightly more advanced, this is the process that you find, for example, when you go over the real book and you want to figure out what is the key of the chords, of the many chords that you find in a jazz piece going over the real book. So this chord progression, for example, goes this way, okay? Okay. Now, what did I play? I basically played E minor. You can play E minor 7 or E minor, up to you. Then A7, then D major, G major. Okay. Now, there's a specific reason why I figured out why I chose this chord progression, which is that many people think that you can figure out the key of what you're going to play just looking at the first chord or looking at the last chord. And without, spoiling anything, I just want to say that this chord progression is the perfect demonstration that this kind of thing doesn't work. Okay, yeah, it does work sometimes. So you can find chord progression where the first chord is the one telling you what's the key. You can find chord progression where the last chord is actually telling you the key, but it's not the rule. Okay, it's not the thing that you absolutely have to go through. It is more likely that the harmonic analysis, the chord analysis of what you're playing will give you the perfect answer to what you're looking for, which is what's the key of what I'm playing. Okay. Now, let's see the first chord. Now, the first chord is E minor or E minor 7. It really doesn't change anything. And why it doesn't change anything? Because the process I have to go through is basically how many keys contain the E minor or the E minor 7 chord. Well, in order to answer to this question, we really need to say how many times did I find a minor triad or a minor 7 chord when I was going over the harmonization of the major scale. Well, I did find both of them 3 times, and both of them on the same degrees, and these degrees were the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 6th. So that means that every time I'm playing a minor chord or a minor 7 chord, in this case it's E minor or E minor 7, there are only 3 keys that could contain the E minor or E minor 7. So out of all of the potential major and minor keys that you can find, with the E minor chord, only 3 really can contain that chord. Now, that means that the E minor could represent for the key that we are going over either the second degree, the 3rd, or the 6th. Now, if it's the 2nd degree, my question to myself will be, well, E represents the 2nd degree of which major scale? Now, here is where you really see the importance of all of the intervals we went through when we were creating the chords, when we were building up all of the triads, for example. Now, you should know by now that a major 2nd interval, so the interval which represents the 2nd degree of a major scale, has a distance of 1 whole step from the root. So all I do in order to figure out E minor is the 2nd degree of what, I will just go 1 whole step down and I will find D. So if I'm in the key of D major, E minor would be the 2nd degree, okay? Because the distance between D, the potential key, and the notes that I'm playing is 1 whole step, and we know that the major 2nd interval is 1 whole step, and also I know that the 2nd degree of any harmonized major scale would be a minor chord or a minor 7 chord. So this E minor or E minor 7 could be the 2nd degree of D major, if we are in the key of D major. Let's keep going because we've got 2 more options. If E minor instead is the 3rd degree, then it would be the 3rd degree of something which has 2 whole steps of distance from it. So I will have to go this time 2 whole steps down in order to figure out the name of the potential key when I play E minor or E minor 7. So how does this actually work? Well, by now you should definitely know that a major 3rd interval, which we used tons of times in this series, to figure out how to build up major chords, major triads, This interval, the major third, is basically made by 2 whole steps. So from one note and the third note of the major scale builds on that first note, the distance would be 2 whole steps. So going backwards, if I know that E minor is the third degree, all I will do will be going 2 whole steps down, and I will find C major as the name of the potential key, which contains E minor as third degree. Okay, guys, I'm going step by step and very slowly, but obviously the more experience you get, the more you do exactly the same process much quicker, up to the level where you just look at the chords and you figure all this out in your mind and you just say, we are in the key of X. Okay. Now let's go over the last option that we have. The last option is the E minor seen as the 6th degree of something. Now, we should be quite familiar really with basically figuring out E minor, the 6th degree of something else, because the 6th degree is basically the one where you build up your relative minor key. So if you guys are comfortable with the concept of relative minor and you already know how to figure out the relative minor, you should know by now that the 6th degree, which is basically where the relative minor is built on, is just 1.5 whole steps below from the name of the major key, the root, the major relative key. So E minor, if I go 1.5 higher, I will find G major. So I can say that E minor is the relative minor or 6th degree of the key of G major. Okay. This also works the other way around, because we know that one full octave, one octave of interval is basically made by 6 whole steps. Then I can say, well, 6 whole steps minus 1.5 will give me 4.5. So I could potentially go from my E minor 4.5 whole steps down and I will get G major. So however you want to look at this and however you want to figure out what's the name of this key, you will find that E minor or E minor 7, 6th degree of G major. Now, this means that the chord progression we were going through at the beginning, which is basically E minor or E minor 7, going to A7, going to D major, and then going to G major, which potentially could have been in any key really, is now only in 3 possible keys: the key of D major, C major, or G major. And this is just because we analyzed one chord. We analyzed the first chord of this chord progression. Hey Romulo, good to see you. How you doing? So yeah, this is the concept basically of harmonic analysis. Now I will have to repeat that with all of the chords that I find. Now, some of them will give me many options, like the E minor now gave me 3 possible options, so gave me 3 possible keys really that I could find, and I need to obviously get to the point where I find only one key. Now, some other chords, and I'm thinking of, you know, a D major or a G major, will still give me 3 possible options because I find the major chords 3 times, you know, in a chord progression. If I had, for example, a major 7 chords, then I would get 2 options only, because the major 7 appears only twice in the chord in the harmonized major scale. But then there is one chord, and this is our next chord, A7. You know, the 7 chord, the dominant 7 chord, only happens to be once in the chord progression. So, I mean, only once in the harmonized major scale. So if you find a dominant 7 chord in your chord progression, in your song, you hit the jackpot. Because basically, you can just analyze that and figure out what's the key, what's the 5th degree. Basically, the chord that you're playing is the 5th degree of what. And the next step will just be analyzing the other chords to make sure that they match in the key that you found. This is because the dominant 7 chord, that important chord that we introduced in the previous few lessons of this live streaming series, only happens to be on the degree number 5. Okay, so my question will be now, A7 is the 5th degree of what key, of which key? Now, there are many ways to figure this out. If you are slightly more advanced and you followed precisely my tips on how to figure out the intervals on the fretboard, you might know that given a note here, you will find the perfect 4th here, and then the other way around is the 5th of this note. But if you are not familiar with this, then let's say that you should be familiar with the perfect 5th interval. Now, the perfect 5th interval is basically an interval that has a length, a distance of 3.5 whole steps. So basically 3 tones and 1 semitone. This also means that it's basically the same as 7 semitones or 7 frets on the guitar. So given one note, for example, the note A, I can go down until I find that A is the 5th degree of this note here, which is D, okay? Now, because I said A is the 5th degree of D, this chord A7 only belongs to the key of D major. Okay, so the key of D major was obviously one of the 3 keys that we found when we were analyzing the E minor. So the E minor could have been the 2nd degree of D, could have been the 3rd degree of C, or the 6th degree of G major. And in this case, the second chord that we find, A7, confirms that E minor is the 2nd degree of D, and that we are in the key of D major. Okay, so far we found E minor, 2nd degree of D major, A7, 5th degree of D major. We now need just to double check, just for peace of mind, we just need to double check that the following 2 chords we played are also in the key of D major. Okay, so the next chord is actually D major. So this is the best confirmation that we could possibly get in order to say, yes, we are in the key of D major, because D major could obviously be the 1st degree of the D major key. So let's move directly on to the next chord, which is going to be G major. Now, this G major that we find here could potentially have 3 rows, okay? It could be the 1st, the 4th, or the 5th degree. But if we analyze it as the 4th, it will tell you that we are in the key of D major. Because if I look at it from the D major perspective, I would say D is the 1st degree, is the 2nd degree, and the chord that I find is minor. Third degree will be F sharp, and the chord that I find is minor. 4th degree will be G, and the chord that I find is major, or major 7 if you extend it to the 7th. So G represents the 4th degree of D major. If you guys are not quick enough yet with figuring this out, there's no problem. You would just have to take a little bit longer, take it a little slower, and basically say, well, G could be the 1st degree of G major, could be the 4th degree of D, could be the 5th degree of C. And then you will figure out, well, I actually said D. So D is the name of the key, which ties up all together these chords that I played at the beginning. E minor, A7, D, G. Okay. So they all belong to the key of D major. So that is the best example to demonstrate that the chord that would tell you the name of the key is actually hidden in the chord progression as the 3rd chord. So looking at the 1st chord, E minor, or looking at the last chord, G major, this time will not tell you what's the name of the key that you're playing. You have to go through this process called harmonic analysis. So just to recap this, I see there are a few more people here now, and I'm sure that many more will watch the replay, so this is helpful for everybody. We can say that in order to figure out what key you're playing in, you just need to do this process, which is called a harmonic analysis. You need to be comfortable with intervals and harmonized major scales. Make sure to watch the previous episode, in particular the episode 10, where I introduced that. And you will figure out many different options for all of the chords that you're going to play. And now, out of all of these options, you will find one which ties up together all of the chords, and that is the name of the key that you're going to play. Okay, so that's the thing that really matters to you in order to figure out what is the key. Now, as you saw here, there are a few chords that might help you. So if you do find a 7th chord, start from there. Okay, there are other chords that take a little bit longer, and that's okay. And more importantly, with the experience and with how good you are with, for example, the accidentals in the keys and all that sort of stuff, how quick you are with the intervals, you will be able to basically go over the same process that I went through now, just much, much quicker, in a way that as soon as I play a chord progression like E minor 7, A7, D, G, I just say we are in the key of D, because I see a few references that are telling you immediately that we are in the key of D. And I can guarantee you that if you go over a few more examples, if you analyze any song that you are already playing, you will become really quick at figuring out what's the name of the key that you're playing. Obviously, all this works for major keys. So the next step in tonight's live streaming is going to be going over what is going on in the major world. So if we do find a chord progression or a song in a minor key, Did I say major? I might have said major. I meant a minor word, so a minor key. So in order to do that, we need to first look at, again, the concept of relative minor and harmonized natural minor scale. We did say before, just before, that when I play a scale, for example, the scale of C major, you should pretty much already be all familiar with this. I will find another scale, another key really, which contains exactly the same note. And that is the relative minor, which is built on the 6th degree of this scale that I played. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That note is A. So I can say that the scale of A minor is relative to the scale of C major because it contains exactly the same notes, obviously in a different order, meaning a different series of intervals. Again, I do have a full live streaming, a full video live streaming on this if you want to check it out. So what can we say here? That obviously, if the notes are the same, when I harmonize the 7 notes of the natural minor scale in A, I say, guys, natural minor scale, because if I only say A minor, you might get a little bit confused in the future, because you might find out in the future that there are other minor scales, like A minor scales, for example, which are not natural minor, and they do not represent the relative minor of C major. They, in general, do not have the same notes as a major scale, okay? So much more different intervals and different degrees. These scales, just for your own knowledge at this stage, are the melodic minor and the harmonic minor scales, okay? So let's get them out of the way for now, and let's only focus on the natural minor scale, which is the scale that we see as the relative of a major scale, basically built on the 6th degree of a major scale, okay? So because the A natural minor scale, the relative of C major, has the same notes as C major, the harmonization that we went through in the episode 10, and it was the C major scale that we harmonized, will be exactly the same even when I harmonize the A natural minor scale, because it contains the same notes, just starting from the note A instead of the note C. Okay, that's the difference really. So I will find also the same chords when I harmonize that. Okay, hopefully that makes sense for everybody. Like if I start from A 1st degree, the next note that I find by thirds is C, and the next note again is E, and I find an A minor. That A minor, which used to be the chord that you found on the 6th degree of a major scale, will now be the 1st degree of a minor scale. So it's just like if all of the 7 chords that we found in triads, and also as 7th chords, will be able to be, they will just be the same chords in a minor key, but the number of the degree will change. So what used to be the 6th degree is now going to be the 1st degree. What used to be the 7th will now be the 2nd degree. And obviously, what used to be the 1st degree will be now the 3rd, then what used to be the 2nd will be the 4th, and so on. You know, it's just moving it by 2 places in terms of intervals. So let's go over that in detail, okay? So I will go over this in the key of A minor, okay? So A minor is made by the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So these are the notes that I'm gonna harmonize. Now, on the 1st degree, A, the chord that I find is going to be the A minor triad, or A minor 7, if we look at it as 7th chord. And this is the same as what used to be the 6th degree of a major scale. Then on the 2nd degree of this A minor, which is B, I will find this B diminished triad, or B half diminished chord, if I look at it as a 7th chord. This will be my 2nd degree of the natural minor scale in the key of A, okay? And it's what it used to be the 7th degree of a major scale. Then let's move on. The next note that I find is C. Now, on this degree, I will find C major or C major 7 as it used to be on the 1st degree of a major scale, for example, the C major scale. But it's now the 3rd degree, and we'll see what type of 3rd degree of the A minor scale. If I continue with the 4th degree of the A minor scale, ba, 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 this is going to be the note D, where I find a D minor triad or a D minor 7 if I look at it as a seventh chord. And again, this used to be the second degree of C major, and it's now the fourth degree of the fourth degree of A minor. Okay. If I continue with the next chord, with the next note is E, and E will give me an E minor triad and E minor 7 seventh chord or tetrad. Okay. And this is nothing but what it used to be on the third degree of C major when we were harmonizing the C major scale. If I continue, again, I will find the F as next note. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th note of A minor. This is going to be an F major or an F major 7. Okay, and it's what it used to be on the fourth degree of a C major scale. If I continue with the last note of the scale, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G is my last note, what I find is a G major chord or a G7 chord if I look at it as a dominant 7th chord. Okay, so that means that, again, I've got exactly the same chords that I found when I was harmonizing C major or any other major scale, but I look at them with different numbers in mind, being different degrees, but again, being the same chords in a minor key. So if I recap all this, I will find A minor, B diminished, C major, B minor, E minor, F major, G major. I want to do them in 7th chords, fine. A minor 7, B half diminished or minor 7 flat 5, C major 7, B minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7. Okay, that's the harmonized A minor scale. Now, what I really care about now is that, first of all, you can do that in any other minor key, so applying this concept to any other natural minor scale or relative minor scale of other major keys. Also, and this is the next point in today's timestamps, okay, if you're watching the replay of this, it's going to be the degrees that we have in a minor key. This is quite important as it was when we introduced the scale the very first time in this series, and we went over formula intervals, but also names of the degrees, like 2nd degree, 3rd degree, and what is the quality of that degree? Is that a major degree, a minor degree? When we went over the A minor scale the very first time as the relative of C major, the relative scale, relative key built on the 6th degree of a major scale, we said that the names of the degrees are root note, obviously, for the first chord, for the first note, A, major 2nd for the 2nd note, B in this case, then minor 3rd for the 3rd note, C, for example. This might be a surprise if you think about C as, relative major of A, but it's not really a surprise if you think that we are doing a scale, we're doing a key that we call A minor. And what is the thing that really defines anything minor in music? It could be a scale, a chord, a key, anything really. It's just the fact that you have a minor 3rd interval, a minor 3rd degree. And C is the minor 3rd degree that you find starting from A. So you have A, B, C, 1.5 whole steps. Okay. Now, if I continue, the next note, D, is a perfect 4th. So I just call it the perfect 4th, while E is going to be the perfect 5th. But now the surprises continue with the 6th and 7th degree F and G. Now, F has a distance from the first note A, which is going to be 4 whole steps. Now, 4 whole steps is not the 4.5 that we were looking at before in the 6th degree of a major scale. So it's a minor 6th degree, okay? And the note G has a distance of 5 whole steps, or -1 if you look at it from the octave, if you're familiar with this method when we were building up the 7th chords. And this means that the G is a degree which is called the -7th degree, because it's not just half step below the root, like the major 7th, but it's 1 whole step below the root, below the octave, and we call that the -7th degree. Okay, so basically this scale is made by root, major 2nd, minor 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, -6, -7. Now, how does this impact and affect what we are going to do in terms of harmonic analysis? Well, it does a lot, because when you look at the harmonization and when you look at the harmonic analysis, you don't just put the numbers on top to say 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, and that's it. But you've got a method which, first of all, uses the Roman numerals or Roman numbers, which basically are slightly, different from the Arabic numbers that we all use, and they are going to be with another symbol next to them. Okay, actually two symbols. Okay, one symbol goes before and one symbol goes after. Now, if the degree of the scale that you're talking about, like A minor, is a minor degree, you will find the flat just before the Roman numeral. So what does it mean? That if I'm in the key of A minor and I find the chord which is C, because the note C is actually the minor third of the A key of the A minor scale, I will analyze that as flat 3 in Roman numeral. Now, the 3 is because it's the third degree of the A scale, but the flat just before it, it's just because the interval is minor. So that flat doesn't mean that the note we're talking about is a flat note like, I don't know, D flat. No, we're not saying that. We are saying that the note, which is in this case C, so a very natural note, okay, will be a minor interval. So flat 3 means minor third degree of the A minor scale, followed by the consideration that if the degree that you are analyzing, this affects, both major and minor keys, it doesn't matter. If the degree that you are analyzing shows you a major chord, then you use the Roman numerals as capital letters. Okay, for example, to say the third degree, you use 3 times the I in capital letter. If the degree that you are analyzing instead is minor, you will use that 3 in small letters, so small i's. Okay, small, i's. So in that case, I will write this C major, which is the third degree of A minor key, as flat, so the little b symbol of the flat, followed by 3 i's in small letters to say third degree minor. Okay. But if in this case the chord is major, because it's C major is a major chord, I will do the same, flat, because I'm saying it's the third degree, but the 3 i's will be in capital letters, because they will tell me that I'm playing a C major, not a C minor. So a third degree, a minor third degree of the A minor key is a major chord. So there are 2 different levels. One level is talking about the interval with reference to the key that we're talking about. So A minor is the name of the key, C major is the chord, and you say that C is the minor third of the A minor. That's how you use the flat and the 3. But the 3 will be in capital letters because the chord is major. And if the harmonization was in 7th chords and you found a C major 7th instead of a C major, then what would you do? You would also add to the flat for the minor third and to the 3 in capital letters Roman numerals to say third degree. You will also add the delta or any other symbol for the major 7 to say that this chord is major and it's a major 7th. That's how you analyze a song. That's how you analyze a chord progression. If you guys are more interested in, figuring out, the best notation, when you analyze a song, we can do proper, real life examples, basically going over a song and trying to write down on top of the chords together the harmonic analysis. I think that would be really interesting to do. So I will consider doing another live streaming on that, and let me know if you are interested in that as well. Now, as we were saying, this kind of flat followed by the Roman numeral and the type of chord that you have applies to the third, to the 6th, and to the 7th degrees, because they are the minor degrees that you find in the A minor key, as well as in any other minor key, as well as in any other minor scale. Okay, so if I find an F major or a G major, I will do the same, flat 6, flat 7 in Roman number, still with, depending on whether the chord is major or minor, small letters or capital letters. Now, both the F and the G, as well as the C that we played before, are major chords, so I will use the flat, followed by the 6, or followed by the 7 in Roman numerals in capital letters. But if I use the F as 7th chords, it would be an F major 7, and the correct analysis of that would be flat 6 in capital letters, followed by the delta to say major 7. If I find the G extended to the 4 notes of a 7 chords would be a G7, and the correct way of analyzing that would be flat 7 in capital letters Roman numerals, followed by the number 7, Arabic number, the one that we used to say G7. Okay, so that's how you analyze stuff. If you have instead a major or a perfect interval and degree, like, I don't know, if we are in the key of A minor, we could look at D minor and E minor. They're both perfect intervals, the 4th and the 5th. You just write 4 and 5 in Roman numerals, okay, followed by the -7 symbol if you're looking at -7, or if they are just minor triads, you just use small letters instead of capital letters, and that's it. Even the A minor itself, you know, the first degree of this key, the key of A minor, will be analyzed as the number 1 with a small I in small letters because it's a minor chord. So you are saying the A minor is the first degree of A minor key, and you need an I in small letters instead of capital letters to do that. Okay. So that's what I meant in the description when I put in the timestamps degrees in a minor key, which we didn't do in the major keys, because in the major keys you basically have only major and perfect intervals, so you never need flat. But what I wanted you to know is that when you analyze a minor key, you actually have the necessity to add the flat symbol next to the 3rd, to the 6th, and to the 7th degree, okay? And then you also need to specify what kind of chords they are. But regardless from what kind of chords they are, and regardless from what's the key that you're playing in, so from what notes you find on the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th degree, you will always need the flat, because the flat doesn't refer to the actual note that you play. It does refer to the degree that you are analyzing. And the degree is always going to be flat 3, so minor 3rd, flat 6, flat 7, minor 6, minor 7th. We did already say something about it when we introduced the minor scale in general with its series of intervals, but I felt like this was the right, appropriate time to explain how this works with chords. Okay. Now, moving to the very last topic for tonight, which is how to find the key of a song when the key is minor, when the song is minor. Then all you have to do is basically repeating the same concept of analysis that we went through before, but keeping in mind the degrees that we explained just now in the minor key. Now, if you guys are interested, I might talk about in the next live streaming, or in one of the next live streamings, about how do I know whether the song is in a minor or in a major key, provided that there are 2 keys, one minor and one major, which contain exactly the same chords. Now, this is a very open topic because not everybody agrees on how you figure that out, but I can tell you that there are a few references and a few rules that we should follow to say whether a song, for example, is in the key of C major or in the key of A minor, although these 2 keys, these 2 scales contain exactly the same notes. So you might want to say, well, I'm in the key of C major, or well, I'm in the key of A minor, and that would be exactly the same. It doesn't really affect what you are playing. But, you know, there are a few things that might make you think like, well, I prefer to say we are in the key of C major, or I prefer to say that we are in the key of A minor. Okay, so if you're interested in that, we can talk about that in the next few videos. But what I want to talk about now is, you know, what is the exact process to figure out the key of a song when the song is minor, when the key is minor. So let's say that we have another chord progression, and this chord progression, for example, could have, you know, a -7 chord. Well, let's do this with, let's do it with 7 chords. So we can say A -7 chord, then another one, and then another one as well. So 3 -7 chords. So let's say that we are playing this. Which is, by the way, a nice chord progression. It's very similar to one that I just used in my latest YouTube video that, if you haven't checked it out, it basically went out last Tuesday, and it was the episode 7 of another series that I have, which is called R&B and Neo-Soul Acoustic Guitar. In that episode 7, I analyzed a chord progression with 3 -7 chords and a few embellishments that beginners, but also intermediate, can play. So if you haven't watched it and you're interested in R&B and Neo-Soul Acoustic Guitar, watch that episode 7. Anyway, this is the chord progression: A -7, B -7, E -7. Now, again, if you look at the first chord and you think, well, I found the key, I'm in the key of A minor, you're wrong. And the reason why you're wrong is because we already analyzed and harmonized the A natural minor scale, and we found on the second degree a B minus 7 flat 5. Because the chord that I was playing is a B minus 7, this already tells you that we are not in the key of A minor. Okay, so keep that in mind, because as I said before, we need to go over the harmonic analysis and not just say, well, the first chord is the name of the key, because it's not. Same thing happens with the last chord. However, in this case, we'll see that there's not a good example for that. Okay, let's put it this way. Now, A minor, 7, B minor, 7, and E minor, 7. They are minus 7 chords, which could be, all of them could be in 3 different keys. Because when we harmonized the natural minor scale, we found the minus 7th chords on the 1st, on the 4th, and on the 5th degrees of a minor key, of a minor scale. So if I look at the A minor could be the 1st degree of itself, or it could be the 4th degree of something else, or the 5th degree of something else. Okay. Now, if I look at it as the 4th degree, it's the 4th degree of E. Okay. Again, I could go over the entire scale, E, F sharp, G, A, and I find that A is the 4th degree. But again, if you are comfortable with the intervals, use the intervals, okay? So say A is the 4th, so 2.5 whole steps higher than what? Than E. And you will find that E is the 1st degree and A minor is the 4th. So A minor could be the 1st degree, A minor 7, the 1st degree of A minor, the 4th degree of E minor, or it could be the 5th degree of D minor. Okay, so these are the 3 minor keys where you find A minor. So we've got in mind 3 keys now: A minor, E minor, and D minor. Let's move on to the second chord, B minor 7, because even this one could be in 3 different keys. Obviously, it could be the 1st degree of B minor 7. Sorry, B minor 7 could be the 1st degree of B minor. But I'm not even considering this option, simply because B minor was not one of the keys that A minor gave me when I analyzed that. So I forget about it. And I move already on to the next one, which will be B as the 4th degree. 4th degree of what? Of F sharp minor. Okay? But again, even here, you know, we didn't find F sharp minor as one of the potential keys when I was analyzing A minor. So let's not include this as well. So I will find only one more option, which is B minor, the 5th degree minor, obviously, of a E minor key. Okay, and E minor is one of the 3 keys that I found out when I was analyzing A minor 7 as a chord. So basically, these 2 chords, A minor 7 and B minor 7, could only be in the key of E minor, because E minor is the only key which contains these 2 chords. Now, before I can say 100% yes, the chord progression is in the key of E minor, I need to analyze the following chord just to double check that we are in the key of E minor. And guess what? The next chord is E minor 7, which obviously has 3 options as well, but one of them will 100% be being the 1st degree of E minor. Okay, so A minor 7, B minor 7, and E minor 7 belong to the key of E minor. And the harmonic analysis of them is 4th degree minor 7, 5th degree minus 7, 1st degree minus 7. So all of the letters that I will use of the Roman numerals to write down the degree, 1, 4, and 5, will be in small letters because all of these 3 chords are minor. But I also need to have the number 7 next to them, or minus 7, even better, next to them, to say that this is a minus 7 chord, minus 7 chord, minus 7 chord on what? On the 4th, 5th, and 5th degree of a minor key. You don't need any flat in this case because we are not going over the 3rd, we're not going over the 6th or the 7th degree of the key, okay, which would be different chords. Hopefully this makes sense. It's just to give you one example of a chord progression in a minor key and how you analyze it, how you figure out what's the key of that chord progression, and also how you notate the harmonic analysis. But as always, you do need to go over many more examples, many more songs that you've been playing and you've played in the past, you know, and figure out what is the actual key of those songs, to be really quick and just say these 3 chords are in the key of E minor 7, because I see the intervals, I see the types of chords that I find, I've got the experience of other songs that I analyzed before, and I can tell that in literally no time. Okay. Now, I only want to say that together with being very interesting to talk about, for example, what is the difference between a major and a minor key, or how you can tell whether we are in a major or in a minor key when you start analyzing a song and you don't know that yet. And we said we're going to talk about that in the future. There are obviously a few more exceptions, let's say, to all of this rule, because although not very common, but I could find 3, maybe even 4 chords that belong to more than one key. So that when you analyze it, you actually are left with 2 possible keys for that chord progression. Okay, that could happen. It just depends on how close the chords are, how close the keys that you find as possible options are. So if you want, we might talk about how you actually figure out what is the only one key of that chord progression in those cases. Or maybe sometimes you could figure out that 2 keys work fine as well, and you might improvise and create melodies, for example, with either one of them. But more likely, only one is the actual key, and there are a few more elements that you might want to take in account to figure out what is the key in these more complicated cases. And one of them being the analysis of the melody, which is different from the harmony, which is what we're doing now. And that would bring you a little bit more into the arrangement field, and there is where you find more of these rules and references to figure out the key when you're not 100% sure just from the harmonic analysis. So the analysis of the harmony, the analysis of the chords, which is what we're doing now. Right, because we only introduced today the minor keys, I don't want to go over that today. I don't want to add more topics. So I hope that all this makes sense, guys. I think it was important to go over the minor keys as well as the major keys. So in the next few episodes, we'll be going over all of these other little nuances that we talked about just now. Okay. As always, guys, if you are watching the replay of this live streaming, make sure to leave any questions in the comments. Or even if you watched the live streaming and you felt like you want to go over some of these topics again, make sure to check out the video in a little while, and you will find the timestamps at the bottom so that you can go to the topic that you really are interested in and maybe listen again to that small part of the video that you might be interested in. Take some notes, do exercises, find the key of the songs that you already know, the key of the songs that you're going to learn, and maybe come up with your own chord progressions using the harmonized minor scale that we went through today, or the harmonized major scale that we went through last week with the episode 10. Okay. Again, really appreciate your support and you taking the time to watch this video. If you haven't done it yet, obviously make sure to subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to stay up to date with all of the other upcoming videos. Again, for any questions, leave a comment in the comment box and I will get back to you. My latest video on R&B is out, so if you're interested, make sure to watch it. My next video will be out next Tuesday. So make sure to subscribe so that you can watch all of the upcoming videos. And as always, the next live streaming of this series, Music Theory for Guitarists, which will be the episode 12, will be next Friday, same time. Okay. Once more, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll catch you soon.